Good afternoon. I'm talking to you this afternoon with a different background. I'm actually outside of our church building right now with the backdrop of the green leaves of the trees on this brisk but lovely spring day. You have noticed by now that I'm not sending out as many video correspondences here of late. When this whole thing began, I set a goal to speak to you every other day, and that became just a little bit too much to keep up with. I find that I don't have that many stimulating things to offer you, so I've cut that back to once a week at this point. But nevertheless, I still feel it's important that you hear from me periodically, so that we can stay connected with one another and so that you will feel connected to the faith community. Believe it or not, we have been at this now for 2 months. The last time we physically worshiped together in this space was on March the 8th. That was the second Sunday in the season of Lent. And we have not worshiped together physically since that time. And when this all got underway, I frankly believed that we would be back together again, worshiping in person in our worship space before the season of Easter was out. Instead, we have gone all the way through the season of Lent. We have now made it all the way, almost all the way, that is, through the season of Easter. We have a couple more weeks in this season. Following that, we have the ascension of Jesus and the day of Pentecost. And I think it's going to be beyond Pentecost before we are seriously able to gather together again as a congregation physically. So this has lasted much longer than any of us hoped or than I had imagined when this all began. So I want to speak to you today on the subject of perseverance. Perseverance is something that I think we all need during this time and often need when we are confronted with challenges in our lives. The words I want to share with you come from the 12th chapter of the letter of Hebrews. The author writes, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and the sin that clings so closely, and let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and the perfecter of our faith, who, for the sake of the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God." The author of Hebrews talks about our life of faith and compares it to a marathon race. We've often heard faith being compared to a journey. Well, here it's talked about in terms of a foot race. And a marathon race, as you know, is 20 plus miles, and a person needs to condition themselves to train for a long time to be able to run for more than 20 miles and make it from start to finish. Life, indeed, is a marathon race. Not only do we hope that it lasts a long time and that we have many meaningful experiences and encounters during our lifetime, but we need to be able to persevere through life because there are many challenges and shortcomings, setbacks, and so forth that come our way in life. And through faith, we attempt to persevere. So, how do we persevere in our present situation or in our life of faith in general? Well, I don't know about you, but I find that perseverance is just not something that I can always summon from within myself, where I grit my teeth and through fierce determination decide that I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other until I get to whatever destination I am working towards. I'm just simply not that strong. I don't have that kind of discipline. It's the same thing I feel about exercise in general. My wife keeps trying to get me to ride bicycles and to get out and do physical activity in order to stay as healthy as I possibly can. And of course, it would be a good thing for me to do that. I acknowledge that. But the problem is, I don't like inflicting pain on myself physically. And so if there's any kind of physical exercise that's going to cause me a great deal of discomfort, most of the time I will elect to sit on my butt instead. And I know that's not a good thing, but I simply don't have the wherewithal to persevere through that on my own, with my own determination and discipline. So the good news from the author of Hebrews is that we don't have to persevere based on our own resources. The way we run this race of faith, the author says, is by keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus, who is the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. Looking ahead from our present situation, we can't tell when or what kind of a situation we will eventually merge into. Once the coronavirus cases begin to diminish, and it seems that we are in a safer period of time, what's that going to be like? We don't know. When this all started, quite frankly, I was thinking about a time when we would get back to normal, get back to going to work, commuting to and from work, get back to worshiping together as a congregation, back to going to the malls, going to the movie theaters, seeing live shows and sporting events, things like that. The things that used to give pleasure and meaning and purpose to our days. I find that I'm no longer thinking that way. And in talking to many of you, I know that you're not thinking that way anymore as well. I'm thinking in terms of a new normal. Even when we talk about coming back together and worshiping physically in the same space, we're not going to do everything the way we did it before. We simply can't, because we want that experience to be as safe as possible for everyone who comes to worship with us. So we're going to have to do some things differently. And looking ahead right now, we can't see clearly enough to be able to tell what that new normal is going to be like. But we can keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, the risen Christ, who is the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who has paved the way through this marathon. He experienced everything that you and I experience in life, all of the setbacks and the suffering and the loss that we have experienced. The author of Hebrews speaks specifically about the torture, the torment, and the shame of the cross. He was faithful to the marathon that God had set in front of him, drawing his strength from his relationship with his Father. He ran that race to its conclusion on the cross and beyond to the resurrection, to Easter. And drawing our strength from him, keeping our eyes fixed on the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, we too are able to persevere and run this race in our present circumstances and through everything that we encounter in life. And we're not just drawing our strength and our encouragement from Jesus, from his example and from his Spirit, but at the very beginning of the passage I read to you from Hebrews, the author talks about being surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. What is he talking about there? Well, I think he's speaking about being surrounded by the community of faith, the people who witness to Jesus, who confirm Jesus' role in their lives. This is not just the church of the living now that we're talking about, but by the church, also the church of the eternally living. The living saints who dwell in God's presence in His heavenly kingdom. We draw strength from one another. During this period, all of you have been very faithful to one another, keeping in touch with one another, calling each other on the phone, sending notes out to one another, staying in touch through the shepherding groups. We stay in contact with one another by worshiping together by virtue of video. We have been able to hang in there together as a community of faith. And by remaining together, we are able to draw strength from one another. The encouragement we need to continue to plod along and put one foot in front of the other until we eventually emerge into whatever the new normal is that God has in store for us. I hope these words will buoy your spirit in some way and will encourage you to be able to persevere in our present situation. God bless you. Stay well and stay safe.